Hi everyone. What we'll be doing in this lesson is working on how divs work out and how nested layouts work out, which probably won't mean much to you at this point in time, but hopefully by the end of this you're under control. Now this is also one of the most important things that you do learn in this course in terms of being able to produce professional layouts. So the first thing we kind of want to understand is what an actual div is. So basically what divs are is they're containers. So for example, the picture we've got here, which is just a screenshot of YouTube, has a series of containers or divs. So a div is basically a container that holds other information. So for example, we have three videos here which have a thumbnail, then some name of the video, a little bit of information, and whatever else. Now all of that is held within containers called divs, and the main advantage of this is it allows you to position elements within elements quickly and easily, and you can create these sort of divisions fairly easily, and you can also stack the divisions pretty horizontally or vertically, and model your appearance on there, which we'll go through in a second. But the first thing we might probably do is start by doing a little bit of coding so we make sure we are clear on that. So I'm going to get my boilerplate layout, and I'm going to do, whoops, I made a mistake, sorry, boilerplate layout, try again. And we're going to put a div in here first. So just to show you how they work. Now, divs are just literally, as I mentioned at the start of the video, are literally containers. So I just put in some information here, and then we can save it and check out what it looks like on the website. We can see we've just created a little bit of text on there, so it doesn't work a lot different to other text elements. But if you do the inspection on here, what you see is that they are, by their nature, basically containers that can hold other things. So if we want to put some information within the div, so instead of putting some text, let's say instead we decide that within this div element we are going to have, let's say, a heading, so a H1, let's say, and then below that we might have a paragraph. So it is a image, so some information within some information, as an example. So it's a heading, and then there is a paragraph. So this is a paragraph. Now, when we do our layout like that, what happens is it really doesn't look like we're doing much with our website. So you're seeing that we've got a heading, we've got a paragraph, and that's held within the container. So you can see that when we have the inspect on, there's a container which is holding these two elements. Okay, so essentially that's all a div actually is. It's just literally something that holds elements. So let's go through how that's actually useful. So I'm going back to the website. So this is all on the website. So basically there are two types of layouts that you can get. Basically there's horizontal and there is vertical. Okay. Now you've previously come across the concept of block display, which basically means if we put text, for example, which is by default is a block element, that means each time you put in a paragraph or a H1, it's going to stack vertically on top of each other. And that's all very nice. And if we wanted to change that to that same text being side to side, we would create an inline block display. Now these two things in combination can be used to pretty much create any layout. I've got an example down here. So this is a layout from YouTube, and we've taken just a thing on this Taylor Swift, and what we've done with the layout is just to show you exactly what's going on. So we have an overall container that is holding all of that information. Now, if we have a look at what's there, we basically have a picture and then we have some other stuff below, right? So the picture itself is a container. So you have a container within a container, okay? And then below that, we've got another container, which is holding everything else. So basically, they are stacked on top of each other. So you've got your picture on top, and then you've got your logo and that sort of thing. Now, within the lower level, the lower container, we then have a bit of a logo, and then we have the title of the video, and then stacked below that is who's released it and some video stats. Okay, so that's an example of what they refer to as a nested layout example, but you can see that by using these things in different combinations, you can break down pretty much any layout that you like. This just sort of shows it in detail. So what we'll do is we'll build something similar to that now, so that you're clear on how you might do it. So what we're going to start with is we're going to start with a div. Okay, so we have our div, and we know if we're creating a layout like this that we need a top layer and a bottom layer, one that's holding the picture and one that's holding all the other stuff. Okay, so we need a total container, okay, and that container is basically is the first div. So this would be the, if we give that a class, let's say we give that the class overall container. Okay. And within that we have another two divs. So the one on top, which is the picture, and the one on the bottom, which is the text, or all the other stuff basically. Okay, so now if we want to start by, before we start doing that, what we might do is we'll put in a style tab, and we can start to look at what we're actually seeing and how it's all sort of being built up. Okay, so we'll put in a style. Okay, and we're going to target the overall container first, and I'm going to put some styling around that, which will allow us to see the container, and then we'll start to size the container to whatever we want. Okay, so if we want to create our container to a certain width on the screen, and I'm just going to use 300 pixels to start off with, and we're going to have a height, so it'll just be a square box, and then we want the width to be 300 pixels. So pretty straightforward. Now, if I was to say that now, you're really not going to see, there's going to be nothing on the screen, okay? Because it doesn't really show you what's actually happening. So that's basically because we haven't added any content. But to be able to see the container, what we might do is just put a background color, okay? And we'll just make that aqua, for example, just for the moment. So we put that in, we can see that we've created our little box container. Now what we want to do is, this is where we can put in some of the, within that we want to create a couple of boxes. Okay, so we want to create our, let's say our image box, so we'll give that class image box. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have our image box. Now if we want the image box to be in the top half of the container, we can then set its size. Sorry, we don't want overall, we want image box. Sorry. Okay. And so we can set our size quite happily. So we still want the same width. So we still want a width of 300, and we want, let's say, the image to take up half of the height. So that means we're going to have a height of 150 pixels. Now again, because we've set these heights, we can't see anything on the screen. So why don't we this time, instead of a background color, why don't we put a border in? So border, we might do border style, and we're going to do a just solid line, and we're going to let's say border width. It's going to be 1 pixel, so just enough so we can see it. And then we want, we'll put a color that we can see. So border color, and we'll just make that blue. Okay. So when we save that, what we hopefully can see is we can see that's the container that we've just created within the container. Okay. So now what we can do is we can pop an image in there. So within that container, we can put our image, just like we've done previously. I'm going to use exactly the same image I've previously did, but if you wanted to do it properly, you go and download the image that you wanted for a particular site or whatever. And we need the source. Okay, and the source is, I have my images here, and then I have my list of colors. So I might do this time plant seedlings as a different one. Okay, so we now have our image. Oops. Okay, and then we save that. If we go and check out our screen, now what you'll see there is that the default of an image is that it basically will fill up its full size. So this is a high resolution picture, so we need to fix that. Okay, so let's give it a class so we can target it in CSS, and we'll give it the class, the name image. That'll do. Okay, and obviously if you're doing more things, you'd be a little bit more specific, but we'll just do image for the moment. And image. Okay, and then we're wanting to set, so we want it to set the width. Okay, so we'll set the width to 300 pixels, so it should fill the container. Let's see what it does. Okay, so it's now that container width, but the problem we have, it's also still, because it's a long photo, you can see underneath the edge of here, it's too long a photo. So we need to control its appearance. So and it's just like what we did in the previous thing. So we'll need to set the height to 150. And of course, you would expect to see that would distort the picture. So we'll save it and have a look. Okay, so now we've got a distorted picture. So if we can apply our formatting from last time, and we can put in what we did last time, which was what was it, display image, I think it is. Yeah, I've forgotten. Hang on, sorry. To go and check because I've forgotten the actual piece of code. Styling images, and it is called object fit. That's it. Fit, and we just want to cover. Okay, and then oops, when we go back to our image, now we've got an image that is correctly orientated, so it's no longer distorted, and we could spend time positioning it up or down to get the exact image we wanted, but I'm not going to worry about that. Basically, you've got your top element in. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, you might remember our design. We're just roughly going for this design. If we go back to HTML tags, we'll have another container in which we have two elements side by side. So in our bottom container, we want to have this time containers next to each other. Okay, so to do that, we've got our lower div already set up. So this, we might give that a class, and we're going to make that equal, let's just say text, or let's say video info. Okay, and within that, we've got, if we go back to our design, we have an image on the left, and we have some text on the right. Okay, so the image, so we need container for the image. Okay, so this would be, and I'll just call this class logo, because I think it's usually the logo of the channel. So that's one side, and then on the other side we have our text data, our text information. We'll give that a class. We have our text. Let's call it. Okay, so, and I'm not going to bother putting a picture in and going download. You would put a picture in, but I'm just going to put some text in. Okay, so we can see what's going on. And then we have our logo. And our logo is, our text info. What was here? So Taylor Swift's songs. Okay, I think we've got the information there. Okay, and that's our second lot of information, just so we can see what the containers are actually doing. Okay, if we can control S, we can see what we've got now. Okay, and we've got the logo on top of each other, which is what you would expect, and that's because the display default is a block, which means it takes up the entire space. Now, one thing to be aware of too, if we have a look at the actual elements, what you'll see is that when you have these blocks, the blocks take up the full space within the container. They don't take up the full line for the whole screen, they take up the container. So that's a big advantage, because then you can create multiple blocks and stack them across the screen, and then manipulate the position of them. So now what we need to do is we need to change the setting to an inline block so that these move side to side. So we can do that next. Okay, so we need to target our CSS, and for our logo, we need to set display, and it is, we don't want a block element, we want an inline element. And then we want, for the text info, we want to do the same thing. Okay, and then if we save that, we'll go back to our thing. They're now sitting side by side. Okay, so that's what we pretty much want. Now, within that, if we go back to our design, we wanted some additional information. So within this, even though I put a line between these things, we can pretty much just stack the information on top of each other. So we've got the music information, we've got the stats. Okay, so music and the stats. So if we want to do that, stack that information in, then what we can do is rather than have that information like that, we can split it up so that we have our, let's say we might have our H1 for the name of the list. Okay, oops, and then we might have the second and third piece of information. So this might be a paragraph, for example, or H2, whatever you want. And we'll just put channel name for the moment. Okay, and then they also had video stats. Okay, so once we have that, then we can save it, go back to our document, and so, well, it's now what's happened there is that we've lost our formatting. So we have things that have now wrapped around again. Now the reason that's happened is because these will normally take as much space as they can. So what we need to do is we need to just define that space that we're actually taking up. So for that, what I'm going to do is just put a width of, let's say, 50 pixels for the logo, and then we'll have, say, 250 for the other one. Or we'll make it 200. Okay, and so what's happened now is the information is too big and it's longer than that. It's not fitting in the container, it's going longer. But if we have a look at the inspection, so if I go and have a look now at the container, you'll see that it's all within the container. It's just that what's happening is the text is overflowing, so we would have to format that. So we could format it, but I'm going to be lazy and just say let's put it down to a H3 instead, and that will probably make it all fit. But this is just playing around with the formatting to give you what you want. Okay, if we go back now, it all fits in there, and the logo is on the bottom, and then we could start worrying about aligning things up and down. So if we wanted to do text align, we might center the text, send it left or right, or align it up or down, depending on what you need. Okay, so that's pretty much how you create a layout, even though it's not a pretty layout, but that's how you can break down a layout of any type and copy what's on other websites. All right, so good luck with that. Have a crack at the exercises, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Cheers.